Happy New Year, and welcome to the 2020 year with Carolyn Talks Television. I'm Carolyn Topol, and this is my fabulous co-host, Rachel Arnett.
Happy New Year.
And see, I even wore champagne-colored clothes to celebrate.
I just brought my natural sparkle.
You always sparkle. I need the help. She sparkles naturally.
It's true.
And we're starting, interesting enough, we go from champagne to gold. And that's the Golden Globe nominations. Because as far as this taping goes, the Golden Globe nominations were just a couple of days ago. And wow. By the time this airs, I am not sure if the show will have aired yet. But we'll have to see how this turns out, because this was the year, and I'm dubbing it the year of the snub.
Yeah. Oh, there were so many incredible performances this year that like the fact that they had to get it down to 5 nominees. They really should have extended it to 7 or 8 like the Oscars, because
I think the biggest snub, and the thing that just like had me sitting there gripping those sides of the chairs when I was watching this, I said, wait a minute. ABC Network? Nope. NBC? Nope. CBS? Nope.
Fox?
And Fox?
Nope. Yeah.
So none of the main networks that we have all known and loved for decades got a single television nod from the Golden Globes. Hollywood Foreign Press, clearly not impressed at all by them.
No, I was shocked. Because even with everything amazing in streaming services and premium networks, there's still some fantastic TV happening on these networks. And
now, listening to all the gossips out there who are professional TV gossips, and I think, okay, some of them were saying that the Hollywood Foreign Press is known for wanting to recognize newer shows, but The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is not so new.
No.
The Crown is in its 3rd season, maybe some new cast.
Yep. But still,
not new.
Not a new show.
And I'm just sitting here thinking, wow. And the streaming channels, they're the ones that took it away.
Netflix just demolished everyone. They have 17 nods.
Incredible.
17.
So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of fascinating things come in the future, and maybe this will be a nudge that some of the networks need to say, okay, maybe what we have to do is take it up a step. I know there's issues because it's commercials. Commercials are an issue.
Absolutely, and they have to sell in a way that their advertisers will want to be with them. But I think there's, they don't have to go full HBO. You don't have to go, NBC's comedy lineup to Game of Thrones. Like, it doesn't have to be that big of a shift.
By the way, in Game of Thrones didn't get a nod either, and neither did Veep. So 2 big outgoing shows were just basically
just left off,
swept out of the room. Once again, making me think that maybe that theory about loving the new stuff is more than just a theory.
Yeah.
If it's still a toddler in the series, they're going to go and take a closer look at it. And there are some really good series out there. I was surprised. The other piece being, of course, that when you have these shows on the networks, they're limited by the requirements for language.
That's true. Language and content.
Content. And
there are places they can't go.
And that's kind of sad, because some of those places they can't go are the places people are looking for, because some of those places are really closer to real life than what the network is showing.
Well, and I think about a lot of the comedies that have debuted in the past year on some of the networks, and they're kind of the same thing we've always seen. And I think that's one area where I do think streaming shows and premium shows are miles ahead, really, is just in the comedies. Now, that does not mean there are not fantastic comedies on network TV, but I just think it's different types of comedy.
Well, I will be honest. I DVR'd a whole lot of the new comedies. Particularly, I love sitting and watching a good sitcom.
Yeah.
It's just very relaxing in the evening. So I DVR'd a slew of them. I think I only have 2 sitcoms left that I even have on a DVR series because they're just not upping the ante on the writing. It's just not there.
I'm seeing more on ABC Family than I'm seeing on ABC.
Yes, I agree.
And I think a lot of the networks have also lost some of their biggest shows in the last couple of years. I mean, I think of NBC, and Parks and Rec is gone, and The Mindy Project is gone, and The Office obviously has been gone for a while. But like, these were the shows that made it Thursday night comedy on NBC, and they're gone.
And now ABC is going to lose Modern Family this year, and that's going to throw a wrench right in the middle of their Wednesday night lineup.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to see, but no Blackish, no Modern Family, no This Is Us, no Young Sheldon. And I really thought that young actor deserved some sort of a nod. I guess we're just going to have to see where this goes. Patricia Heaton, her new series, Carol's Second Act, which actually is kind of cute, but that's how I describe it. It's kind of cute.
I'll be honest, I struggle with that show in particular, but there's also this whole new glut of like second career, and they're kind of old, so it's funny shows that I'm just...
And the jokes are not there. I think they're beginning to... I didn't like the first couple of episodes. It was sort of like, okay, I have to give it a try. I do like it better now because they're having more of a balance between comedy and situation.
Yeah, but I think in general the streaming, what I see the Golden Globes recognizing, and not necessarily the same with the Critics' Choice Awards, those are a whole different set of nominations, but the Golden Globes seems like it's going very prestige-oriented.
Ooh.
So prestige comedies.
Well, let's
so Mrs.
see.
Maisel versus Modern Family, which is at this point, I would say less critically lauded and more like commercially lauded. Like people enjoy it as opposed to critics writing about how good it is.
I would agree with that. And now moving on to really what this show is going to be about, which is another kind of interesting twist, is educational TV, but it's not just the kids' educational TV. We wanted to look at educational TV and how it sort of is not just for your toddlers.
Yeah, across the age spectrum.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Now, granted, when you say educational TV, your first thought is, if you still have your toddlers at home with you.
I do.
Okay. Some of the shows that are educational versus entertainment.
Yes. Yep.
I'll be honest, I think probably the higher percentage of Disney Channel, as much as I love Disney, is the entertainment genre.
Oh, absolutely.
There's certainly a lesson in some of what they're doing, but
if I want educational program, I usually go to PBS. Now, one thing I like about Disney and Nickelodeon is both of them will come forward and say, when your child is watching this show, they'll learn about working together as a team and social responsibility. I think that part's cool because as a parent, it gives me the chance to ask Zach questions about those things, how they relate to the episode.
Oh, that's true.
But I think it's much more directly educational programming, animal science, earth science, and things like that on PBS.
And one of those things, for example, this guy's still around, Bill Nye, the science guy.
Oh, absolutely.
And Bill Nye is not there just for a little kid. Bill Nye is really doing science that's engaging enough that teens are engaged. Mm-hmm. I find that an incredible gift because this is not what I would call a young man. Yeah. He's been around for a long time.
He's been educating my generation since we were kids, and then he came out with his Netflix series.
That's right.
And I was watching it again, and he adapted his style. He got a little sassier and a little more adult humor, and then he'll turn around and do another kids show.
Right.
Like he finds the balance in a way that I really like.
And once again, Netflix gives him the latitude to go a little more interesting, a little more creative, and a little less pointed, like this is going to be specifically how we do this.
Yeah.
He can really expand those borders. Expand the borders of all kinds of stuff. Another person who I just think is amazing and is part of the educational TV genre in a very interesting way is Julie Andrews. Yes, she has a show on Netflix
I didn't even know about that.
called Julie's Green Room. We've all heard of the Green Room.
Yeah.
We've all heard of it. So Julie Andrews is involved with puppets from the original Jim Henson Company.
Oh, I'm in.
And actors. And what they do is they put on a show. It's how to put on a show.
That is so cool.
Netflix, once again, thinking out of the box.
Well, Netflix is also doing all of this meta programming, where some of their programming now is about programming. And that's cool, and people like to see it. And they have a whole documentary section. So, like documentaries they create and documentaries that they buy to show. I have a friend who's watched like the entire documentary section, and she just keeps going.
And this is on Netflix. This is geared to children, but clearly something parents and people who do not have little children would enjoy, because look who's there. You got Julie Andrews and a whole cadre of stars and a whole cadre of familiar puppets. You can't go wrong in my book. PBS, of course, is still very much in the loop. And the Science Channel even has a show I discovered, which I was not aware of, called Mythbusters. And I remembered Mythbusters. I thought it had gone off the air, but apparently they now have new hosts who are doing more unusual science experiments, and yet will sometimes turn back to that cute experiment where you put the Mentos in the Coke bottle and it goes,
but then
and
they
it sprays
explain
out
the science behind it. And I've done that experiment with Zach, and I couldn't explain it. So now I think I need to show him the episode, because I didn't know the chemistry behind it.
And now you know the Science Channel actually has a show. And once again, I think they're trying to stretch the age level of the appeal. Because if you do something that maybe you've never done or I've never done as a science experiment as a child, I'm going to be interested even if it is targeting an 8-year-old.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I'm curious what's going to happen. But then we move on to some more of the traditional that are finding new homes, are being attempted to be resurrected, which I love. I'll let you start some of these.
So I see Little Einsteins on our list, and I have to laugh at Little Einstein because a few years ago there was even like an internet trend with teenagers, a meme where they would play the Little Einstein song, and that's actually how I heard of the show Little Einstein. It was like a Vine trend that was happening. I love Little Einsteins. I like the way that they integrate music. I like the way that it's little kids learning about things. I always love when the characters themselves are little instead of just adults talking to kids.
Yes.
Because I think
I see what you're saying.
It makes kids see that learning is cool, because little Tony is learning, little Susie is learning, and it brings it up. I mean, Magic School Bus also.
Well, first of all, one of the things about Little Einsteins that I was really, even caught my eye when my nephews were young, they did watch it when it was first airing. And I really thought that was creative, just even using the name Einstein, because it's a name they're going to hear as they get older, and they will have a different attitude of respect towards that person and what he represented.
Strike something.
And give them a goal. I mean, it's STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, most neglected subjects, especially for a specific gender, just happen to be sitting in front of you right now. I am so glad that all of this is geared to everybody now.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's TV in general is much more inclusive of gender roles. Like there are women and children of different racial and demographic groups on these shows now, which I mean, Sesame Street was the first time I really saw that, Sesame Street and Barney. But it certainly wasn't the case with every show that I watched when I was little. And in
Sesame Street, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Such a big deal that it was even, as I recall, in newspapers, that it was a big deal that a Hispanic family was a core family on Sesame Street.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, wow, that's really cool. And now I think, you think back and you say, they were pioneers in really crossing a line, and thank goodness.
Yeah, exactly. Some lines are meant to be crossed.
And now Sesame Street is 50.
Yeah, and still pushing the line. They introduced a new character who's autistic a few years ago. I believe they have a new character who's homeless, and they discussed that.
Yes, they have a new character addressing the opiate crisis, whose parent, I believe, was addicted or is addicted, and she may be a foster child. I'm trying to get it all there, but that's kind of where we're going with that. And I thought, wow, handling that at the level of the target audience for Sesame Street, first of all, you have to be some of the most brilliant writers on the planet to be doing that.
To be able to handle that line.
And it is a line. It is a line, and it's a hard line to walk across if you really want to make it happen.
Yeah, but I think the best educational programming does that. It takes our comfort level and it pushes us just a little bit at a time, so that it's not only scientifically educational, it's also that social educational. Social emotional learning is like one of the major buzzwords in education right now. And it's so important, that piece of, while you're learning about science, you also learn how to recognize when you're angry, and it's not that you're angry at the person you think you're angry at. Different things like that.
And I'll tell you, as a parent who watched both her children love and grow with Sesame Street, it's very sad that we're mourning Carol Spinney's passing. The man who created Big Bird. And
but what a
Oscar
legacy.
the Grouch.
Oh, what a legacy to have.
And you know, the nice thing was how brilliantly he did it.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, there are so many shows that are just classic children's educational programming from my era. Like, everybody watched Arthur. When I was little, everyone watched Wishbone.
Right.
Which was part of Reading Rainbow, which was still to this day. I need it back.
Well, and Reading Rainbow was one of them that they're talking about bringing back now. I
am on board. I will host. You can be my co-host on that one.
Okay, there we go. There we go.
We're switching.
I'm in. I'm all in. I will read every children's book on the planet to bring Reading Rainbow back.
Oh, it's so good. Honestly, LeVar Burton could probably come back and still do a fantastic job.
I think he would be brilliant.
He was so right for that show. He was so good.
His energy.
Lin-Manuel Miranda hosting Reading Rainbow.
There we go.
Putting it out there in the universe.
You heard it here first. So when we hear he's doing it or makes guest appearances on it,
we get the money. It was our idea.
Yeah.
We get the money.
Yeah, sure.
No? All right.
We'll call it.
It's not legally binding.
We'll call it. I got him on speed dial.
There we go.
Okay.
Exactly.
So pick another. Because we have a whole list of wonderful shows to talk about with you.
We have to talk about Magic School Bus.
Back to my STEM concept also.
Well, and
history.
Magic School Bus, what I love about Magic School Bus is its wraparound. They have books. They have the show. They have the older show. They have a play. I went to a musical last year with Zach that was the Magic School Bus Trip to Outer Space. And they really brought these characters to life well. But it's lighthearted and it's funny and it's got a sense of mystery and danger, but they always solve it at the end with science and with knowledge.
And humor, too.
Yeah,
One of the things I remember is that was one of those shows that I used to say, oh, I'm so glad I'm a grown-up. I don't have to watch cartoons anymore.
Yep.
But when my children watched The Magic School Bus, I might have actually sat down and just sat with them to keep them company.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because of course, I wasn't watching because I was interested. It was really well done. And the voice talent, timing, outstanding. And
the diversity of the children in the school, the diversity in even just their interests and abilities. Like there were the kids who were the super smart kids, but sometimes they didn't have the right answers. Sometimes the quiet kid did. And I just really appreciated the writers of that show and how they built that little universe.
And it didn't seem forced. That was the other piece of that. You had a diverse group of children in the classroom, and it didn't seem like it was a forced message.
Yeah.
I mean, we're sitting here looking at it
just
from
was.
a very critical eye, but it just seemed natural. And that's one of the things that was so appealing, is they set an example of an appropriate natural setting. I'm going to move on to something that I think you knew I was going to talk about at some point, Jeopardy.
Oh, absolutely. I would have been shocked if you didn't.
People don't understand how educational this is. I mean, there are questions on that show.
Oh, absolutely.
That I now know the answers to, because when you watch Jeopardy, if you are actually watching it, you're mesmerized by it.
I've found myself like researching additional information about an answer because I had never heard of it.
I've
or
also
something like
found
that.
myself looking up answers when I thought a mistake was made. I mean, I actually have sat there and quick opened the computer and said, Google, blah, 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 because I was so excited and wanted to see if their judges were going to catch it and give the person their money back or take it away or whatever. But yet, when I would leave the shows, each day there was some kernel of knowledge I have learned.
Oh, absolutely. Even when it's joke categories, I still learn something. There's pop culture to be learned. There's historical connections.
Word combinations.
Yeah.
How to combine words. I mean, that's a skill. That's a skill. And people don't realize language skills you learn from just even watching shows like that. When they combine the first name of this and the last name of that, what do you get? And it would come out to be something like rocket science. But it would be really interesting, and you think, wow, these writers are something else too. Because somebody wrote those and wrote them all in the form of a question, or wrote them all in the form of an answer, so you'd have to make the question.
Yeah. And I think there's a reason why it's one of those formats that's used over and over again in the classroom for study guides. It helps that it's quick. It can allow you to repetition. It helps people categorize information, which is really important for learning. So it just, all in all, it's a really great educational program.
And you're right, because it also helps you learn to focus quickly. Because there is a category, for example, if they say everything has to have a double letter. And you'll watch this show, and someone will answer, and it will be their answer will not include a double letter. I'll say, "Didn't you pay attention?" Now, of course, they can't hear me, thankfully, because I'm sitting there in my teacher voice. You didn't pay attention. It's a double letter category, and I'm thinking,
yeah, absolutely.
But you're forced to focus, and I'm interested in it. My children are interested in it. So there's one generation. And I've even watched young children watching it and get excited because if they can get one answer in an entire show, they know they've achieved because it's a very fast-paced question and answer.
Oh, and I'm not going to lie, I get really excited when it's Teen Jeopardy because then I get every answer correct.
Yeah, Teen Jeopardy is really good. I can run those categories.
Oh man, but when I was a teenager, that was difficult.
Right.
Now that I work with teenagers, I'm like, easy. Oh, you struggled with that? I didn't. But that's okay because they
And then the other
else.
grown-up show that I found was interesting and was on several recommended educational programming lists. Good Eats on the Food Network and the Food Channel, because Alton Brown not only tells you how to cook certain foods, he tells you the science behind why combining of foods work. He'll have a blackboard, sometimes a whiteboard, and with comedy and objects that he has that imitate the food things.
Yeah.
He will give you the science behind why food and food combinations work before he actually cooks it. And then he even has this is why we have to freeze this first because this chemical and this atom and this and this. And I thought, well, first of all, I thought I would never have learned any of this in my cooking class in junior high school back then.
No, they teach you function, not why.
Why. And he's really quite brilliant in the science of related to food. My guess, it goes beyond that. My guess is this is a person who was a science geek somewhere back there.
He's kind of got that vibe.
Yeah,
do
yeah.
it.
And you know what? It's very engaging, which is why he hosts, for a period, it seemed like he was hosting half the shows on the Food Network.
Oh, absolutely.
Almost amusingly so.
Oh, yeah. It's like, oh, Alton Brown in it. 3 new shows. Hey, I'm okay with an Alton Brown block.
And this one. Go
Oh,
for
Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood.
Yes.
Still a massive favorite. And started as a character on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and became its own show. And it's just sweet and wonderful, and it's lovely, but they still teach you things like how to make a safety plan if there's a fire. There was an episode that I watched with Zachary specifically because a firefighter came into his preschool and he had questions. So I knew some of the answers, and then we watched it, and I engaged with him about that episode.
One of the things I love about that, which is one of the things that was endearing about Mr. Rogers for all those decades, is you learned how to be a person.
Yep.
How to be a well-rounded, caring human being. That's significant. People don't consider that educational TV, but it is. When I watch shows, I frequently realize one of the things I like about a certain character over another one is when they're setting an example for me about how to be a generous person, and I don't really mean financially.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%. And it's like I was saying earlier with the social emotional learning piece.
Yes.
We are finding now, educational research is showing that without that social emotional learning piece, a lot of the other academic issues are increasing.
Without question, without question. And I think that's so important. There's so much controversy in the world. It's nice when you can find a place that makes it safe and demonstrates that feelings have value.
Yep.
And people have value. Whether they're people you like or you don't like, they do have value.
Yep, they matter. And it becomes all about, if not knowing the other person, respecting them, but knowing thyself. And it's all wrapped up in this like adorable little tiger and his family.
Well, Rachel and I value all of you.
We do.
And we love that you come and visit with us. And next time, we're going to switch things up a little bit, and we're going to play with game shows.
I'm excited about this
And
one.
not just Jeopardy, I promise.
No. No Jeopardy. Well, no, I can't promise no Jeopardy. I mean, we're going to mention Jeopardy.
But game shows next time. So have a wonderful 2020 beginning, and we'll see you next time.